Ikkaku Madarame Ikkaku Madarame quickly became one of my favorite characters in Bleach. His temper tantrums, attitude, fighting style, and of course his dancing make him not only an endearing character, but one that has a considerable amount of depth despite not being a main character in a show with dozens of stars. Ikkaku becomes a Soul Reaper after suffering a defeat to Kenpachi Zaraki, who encourages him to get stronger before challenging him again. Ikkaku and his friend Yumachika join Squad 11 and immediately make it a point to stand out. As time goes on, Ikkaku becomes a respected member of the squad and works his way up to the third seat right behind Yachiru. He completely adopts the Squad 11 code and does everything he can to live up to it, even if it puts himself at risk. The Bleach wiki describes him as violent, fight-loving, and rude, but that description makes him seem more like a shallow hothead, whereas I would argue he's one of the more fleshed out and well-written characters in the show. In fact, I'd say he's more well-rounded than even some of the characters that have much more screen time. Does he like to fight? Yes. Is he violent? You could say he was when he was wandering around the Rukon district looking for a challenge, but since joining the 13 Court Guard squads, he's not going around beating up random people for no apparent reason. He's a competitive person who's driven to become stronger. Anyone who's ever played any kind of sport, especially a combat sport, knows exactly what I'm talking about, and that isn't necessarily a sign of a violent person in general. As for rude, he only snaps at people when they make fun of him for his baldness, but when it comes to communicating, he comes off more direct than rude. From the start, we see that Ikkaku is a bit of an oddball, but although he's an oddball, he's clearly a very confident oddball, not only in his fighting skills, but his dance moves as well. He has a very aggressive fighting style, and for those of you who are into combat sports, might consider him a brawler or swarmer type fighter, meaning not only is he extremely aggressive, but he's not afraid to take a hit in order to give a hit. This willingness to take a hit and give a hit is also anecdotal of his personality. He respects people who take things head on with no regrets, but he seems to despise anyone who doesn't stand up to challenges regardless of the risks. He seems to greatly admire and respect anyone who not only displays strength and skill, but also determination, which is why in nearly every fight he praises his opponents for their abilities if they catch him with a good hit. Despite being comrades with other lieutenants, he doesn't shy away from a challenge from any of them. Whether it's a duel to determine who is going to get stuck getting more sake, or a battle to show he's better, Ikkaku is one to never let anything or anyone get in the way of his true goal to become stronger and eventually die serving under Kenpachi Zaraki. During his battle with his manifested Zanpakuto, Ikkaku and Hozukimaru constantly referred to each other as partner as they battled, even though it was a fight to the death. This love of battle is what drives him, though it often comes as a detriment to himself and others around him. Because he has placed Kenpachi on such a pedestal that he tries to do everything he can to be like him, he refuses to use his Bankai or back away from a fight he can't win. This pride or overconfidence wouldn't be so terrible, except for the fact that it nearly always causes others to suffer the consequences as well. Such as when Ikkaku lost his battle defending his pillar in the fake Karakura Town arc because he refused to use his Bankai against a superior opponent. It wasn't until Tetsuzaimon tells him that his decision to hold back was not only foolish because it resulted in Ikkaku being the only one to fail to defend his pillar, but that they, meaning Tetsuzaimon and likely many others, already knew he had achieved Bankai. Iba tells him he can't allow his selfish pride to come before the mission. He tells Ikkaku he will never be an effective leader until he learns this lesson. Even then, Ikkaku is hesitant and says he understands, but Iba interrupts him with a punch. He tells Ikkaku that he can no longer fight as if there are no consequences if he dies. Ikkaku rebukes him, saying he can't live being that cowardly, but Iba finally breaks through to him when he declares that Ikkaku must learn to become stronger. He must become stronger if he wants to fight on his own terms against a stronger opponent. Though Ikkaku states that he has no desire to lead a squad as a captain, he ironically ends up basically leading Squad 11 on a day-to-day basis, as Kenpachi and Yachiru are always off doing their own thing. Leadership takes on many forms, and it has little to do with your rank. People are drawn to others who want to win. Ikkaku wanted to become the strongest until he met Kenpachi. Then his goal became to die under his leadership. It was this change from wanting to be the best to wanting to serve that Ikkaku truly found his home in Squad 11. If you're not a competitive person or not comfortable dealing with competitive people, you might find it frustrating to be around them. The competitive nature of guys like Michael Jordan or Kobe Bryant is legendary for a reason. The entire documentary, The Last Dance, highlighted just how frightening it was for other players when they had to deal with Jordan's competitiveness. Kobe Bryant's work ethic and competitiveness became known as the Mamba mentality. The thing is, though, this competitive must-win at all costs mentality isn't just about being the best for oneself. Oftentimes, hyper-competitive people want to see others at their best too. We see this in the interaction with Kenpachi after his first fight with Ikkaku. Ikkaku tells Kenpachi to kill him, but Kenpachi, who shares the same warrior spirit, plants the seed that sets Ikkaku forward on his path.
Sorry, but I'm not here to put you down like you were a sick animal. I've got no obligation to end all of your suffering.
Huh? I'm a warrior. I have my pride. Kill me!
Shut up. If you like fighting so much, then stop moaning and whining for me to kill you. Don't accept a loss and wish for death. Never admit defeat until you're dead. If you lose and manage to live, then consider it your lucky day. When that happens, only think about surviving. After all, there's a goal in your future.
What's that?
Live and dedicate yourself to killing the one who left you alive. You know, I didn't hold back while I was fighting with you. You had plenty of luck, and that's why you're alive. Live. And try and kill me another day. See you around.
Wait! Tell me your name! Don't go. Not until you tell me what your name is!
Kenpachi. Kenpachi from Zaraki.
Kenpachi from Zaraki.
Many people, after suffering a major defeat, hang their heads in shame and give up. Ikkaku does not because he, like Kenpachi, is extremely competitive. It's a sort of game-recognizing game. Competitive people often make for solid leaders because they want the best not only for themselves, but for everyone else around them, and this builds trust and confidence within the team. Think back to when Renji asked Ikkaku to help train him so he could learn how to fight better. At first, he helps Renji, but after a time, when Renji gets to a certain point, Ikkaku tells him he needs to take the next step on his own. You'll notice how timid Renji was when he first asked Ikkaku to train him, and how confident he got over time. This is the point where Ikkaku steps back. Good leaders give people the push they need and then step away when they know someone has the skills to keep going on their own. It's as if Ikkaku was not training Renji's skills with a Zanpakuto, but rather training him mentally, as he even tells him to keep getting stronger because the next time they fight, it'll be to the death. Renji smiles, understanding what Ikkaku is really doing. This is in essence what Kenpachi did for Ikkaku when he told him to live. Despite not seeking leadership or a title, Ikkaku demonstrates good leadership by taking the lesson he learned from Kenpachi and sharing it with Renji. If there is one person you'd want as a friend in the 13 Court Guard squads, you would want Ikkaku. When he first meets Renji and Ichigo, he establishes rivalries with both of them, but over time he becomes two of their most supportive and trusted friends. Despite losing his first battle against Ichigo, Ikkaku doesn't really hold a grudge against him. This encounter leads Ikkaku to become friends with Ichigo as he often visits the Kurosaki residence on missions, even to the point where he tries to crash there for a week. He openly stands up for Ichigo, such as when he was branded a traitor during the Kasamiyoji clan incident. During this incident, he fights Shuhei, who is trying to apprehend Ruki and Ichigo, stating,
Jeez, you're just as hard-headed as always. Use your brain for once, will you? They must be onto something we haven't noticed. That's why Ichigo and his buddies are doing what they're doing. Don't you understand that? I don't. That's just an excuse. You have met him before, right? That's got nothing to do with it. Ha! This is exactly why you're such a loser. Why don't you mind your own business?
While on a mission to the world of the living to learn more about the Arrancars, Renji explains that the reason Ikkaku is with him is because he was told to pick his most trusted friend to fight by his side.
I was closer to Rukia than most, so they chose me. After that, I was told to choose outside the captain class who I most trusted to fight by my side. So that's why I asked Ikkaku to accompany me. Then, Yumichika told me he wanted to come. And when Rangiku heard about it, she said it sounded interesting, and she wanted in too. But then Yumichika said he wouldn't go if Rangiku was coming, and then Rangiku swore she'd kill us both if we left without her. So in the end, Captain Hitsugaya had to come along just to supervise the two of them. And here we are.
Remember, it was also Ikkaku that told Renji he should pursue Rukia before she went to the world of the living for the first time. He was close enough to Renji to know how he felt about her, and that Renji had been struggling with the fact that he wasn't able to pursue her since she had left to join the Kuchiki clan.
Well, are you happy, Renji? You've gotten yourself one step closer to Captain Kuchiki and his sister.
And just what does that mean?
Isn't it about time you talked to her? When are you going to get over your insecurity with Rukia? Even though she's some kind of royalty now, you can approach her since you've become a lieutenant. You haven't spoken for 40 years. Don't you think it's about time you patch things up with her? Remember the way you two used to run around together in the Rukon district?
There are two scenes that stick out to me that prove the depth of Ikkaku's character. During the Zanpakuto rebellion, Rukia is fleeing from Amenos since she doesn't have her own Zanpakuto back yet. When Sodina Shinra-yuki finally finds Rukia and saves her, another voice calls out to her. It's not Renji's, not Ichigo's, but Ikkaku's. She looks up and sees him with the rest of her friends and their freshly reunited Zanpakuto.
Tsukinomai. Hakuren.
Took so long to find you.
Sodeno Shirayuki, how are you here?
More importantly, you should know I didn't come alone.
Hey! You didn't think we'd let you have all the fun, did you?
Based on how Ikkaku is as a character and how he calls out to Rukia here, I wouldn't be surprised if he was the first one on board to come and help save her. This is because not only does he want to get in on the fight, but he also cares about Rukia, not only because she's a friend, but because of what she means to Renji, who, if you remember, is Renji's most trusted friend. Remember, Ikkaku has always been the type of person to help others, especially if it gives him a chance to fight, and also if it helps someone else become stronger. Think back to the time when Keigo's sister asked him to help out with the kendo tournament. Without even knowing what is going on, he shows up in full kendo gear ready to go. When he finds out what is really going on, he seems baffled, but when a young student asks if he can become a real man, Ikkaku smiles and immediately agrees to help. It's like he sees a bit of himself in anyone who wants to become stronger, and this makes him want to be part of that journey. When Keigo asks him if he's really going to help, he replies that he's in debt to that strange woman for giving him food and shelter. This also shows that he is actually a grateful person, even though Mizuho drives him crazy.
Can I change into a real man?
No way! Participate in your youth club activities? Ikkaku would never do that! Right, Ikkaku? Okay, count me in. You'll really do that? I'm in debt to this strange woman for giving me food and shelter.
He really gets into his role as coach of the team, and when Keigo asks him why he's doing it, Ikkaku emotionally admits he loves the feeling that comes along with seeing someone want to overcome something. Ikkaku is inspired by people who, like him, always want to better themselves.
Why are you working so hard for this? You're asking me why? Well, because it's fun. It's been a while since I've seen it. That look of desperation that comes from one's desire to get stronger.
Ikkaku goes wrong when he doesn't utilize his skills to their maximum potential. He refuses to learn Kido and will not use his Bankai. He assumes Kenpachi will look down on him for using Bankai, but he doesn't understand the fact that 1. Kenpachi is Kenpachi and no one else is really on the level that he is, and 2. Kenpachi hindered his own strength subconsciously, not because he thought it was cheating, but really because he feared not having another fight as good as the first time he battled Unohana. This causes Ikkaku to fail in multiple fights, particularly the important one in the fake Karakura Town arc, when he was the only one that allowed his pillar to be destroyed. This inability to see the bigger picture cripples him during numerous battles and also puts others at risk. Ikkaku's true character comes out when it's discovered that during a battle in the past, one of his friends and rivals, Seizo, ends up having his spiritual energy taken away from him by a hollow while trying to save Ikkaku. It's clear that Ikkaku has carried this guilt with him since then. Like Ikkaku, Seizo never wanted to leave Squad 11, which causes him to become an outcast since he can no longer perform or keep up with the rest of the squad. Seizo basically becomes a maid service for the rest of the squad. While Ikkaku normally doesn't pay much attention to those who are unable to fight or get stronger, he simply walks away with a regretful look when asked about Seizo. When Ichigo finds out what happens, he tries to convince Seizo to get his spiritual power back, to no avail. However, during a mission, Seizo is forced once again to pick up his sword to defend others, and though he fights hard, he is overpowered and surrounded. Suddenly, he feels someone behind him and turns to see Ikkaku proudly standing behind him, ready to fight by his side. I'll admit I got a little emotional during this episode because you see what it means for both of them to fight by each other's side one last time, just like in the past. Even more so, in the end of the episode is where Ikkaku really shows his true character. When Seizo is about to leave, the members of Squad 11 all bow in respect, with Ikkaku personally sending his comrade off. It was that scene that solidified to me that Ikkaku really is a true leader. So what can we in the world of the living take from all of this? Well, if you're a competitive person, you may identify with Ikkaku, but if you're not, a person who is competitive may seem strange or even off-putting to you. Most people just want to do a good job and are content with being average or good. But some others just have a fire in them to be the best in whatever it is they set out to be, no matter the cost. Keep in mind that if you're around people like that, they often don't have anything against you personally. They probably want you to do well because competitive people know that the better everyone else does, the better they'll do. They just want to be the best one at it. They often invite the competition because it pushes them to become better themselves. Society today tries to downplay hyper-competitiveness because society hates the fact that winners also means that there are losers. Losing is how you learn to win, though. No one is undefeated in life. It's hard to understand that someone who is competitive is also willing to put others before themselves, but oftentimes these types of people want everyone around them to be great too. One of the reasons MJ and Kobe are always in the top discussion of GOAT is not just because they had great stat lines, but also because they made everyone around them better. Jordan talked about wanting people to be a part of his greatness. Remember when Renji was promoted to lieutenant? Ikkaku was the only one there, and not only that, Ikkaku reminds Renji of Renji's own goal to reconnect with Rukia. Ikkaku understood what was truly important to Renji. He knew of his past relationship with Rukia and the real reason behind why he wanted to become stronger, because it knew it wasn't just about beating Byakuya for the sake of beating him. He even tells Renji that he needs to patch things up with her. Think back to when Nozomi was constantly getting attacked and Ikkaku went into battle to protect her. Yumachika has to remind everyone that not only does Ikkaku want to battle alone because of his pride, but also to buy time for the group to get Nozomi to safety. He had enough confidence in his skills to be able to delay a powerful foe long enough to get his plan to work. It's hard to sometimes see what a person like Ikkaku is really doing because they seem so obsessed with winning. But there are a lot of things happening that you may not notice unless you really understand that person. It can definitely be difficult to be around people like Ikkaku, especially when they refuse help when they clearly need it. But take a moment to step back and understand why that person has an obsession to win. Are they afraid to lose, or are they just obsessive with getting better? There's a big difference between those two, and understanding that difference will really help you to learn how to navigate that relationship. Even if you're not a competitive person, think about how elevating yourself will help the people around you, and think about how you can make everyone else around you better. Pushing yourself to be better will cause others to instinctively want to get better on their own. Success is contagious. You too can put down a line that you refuse to be pushed beyond. A line where you say, no matter what happens, I refuse to be pushed back any farther. As Ikkaku tells Nozomi, eventually you have to strike back. If you're around people who make you feel insecure or devalued, you have to strike back. Just taking what they give you and absorbing it isn't going to help you unless you redirect it and use it as a weapon for yourself. As a leader, you have to understand your role in the bigger scheme of things. This is what Iba was trying to get across to him after his loss in the fake Karakura Town arc. Whether you like it or not, if you're stronger or more talented than others, even if you're not in charge, people are going to look to you as someone they can rely on. You can't do things the way you want with no regard for others. When you are given responsibility to carry something out, whether it's a work assignment or a task for a friend or spouse, you have to remember it's not about you anymore. There's something greater, and if you hold back on carrying it out, you're holding back on your duty to the team. There is a lot that can be learned from Ikkaku. He's the kind of friend that we all need in our lives. He's willing to put himself in danger to protect others. He's willing to say things that you don't want to hear, but need to. So the lesson is, whether you are trying to become the best at eliminating hollows or dominating the workplace, just remember to stick to your code, but don't let it become a detriment. Stand up for others and be the person they want by their side when things get tough. And always have a great, lucky dance to prepare yourself for anything you come up against.